Hello. Feeling a lot better, thank you very much. Definitely. It's like, when you're sick and then you wake up one morning and you're like, oh yes, I feel better. That was this morning. Amazing. Still a little bit croaky, but the worst is over. Somebody put on a comment on the video that I did yesterday or the day before, I can't remember when I did it, that they think that my cheekbones would have looked great when I was really thin. I think my cheekbones look great now. I think they look better, actually, with a little bit of flesh on them. And so does my husband. So there. All right, so this person, and again, I don't have a name, writes, I'm recovering from bulimia, 18 years of bulimia, where I go through long periods of restriction followed by periods of binging and purging. I worked with a dietitian for 2 years and he was great. He got me through more than one relapse and got my BMI up to around 24, which is where it tends to stay if I'm unrestricted. My problem is this. He worked on the exchange system that worked out to be around X amount of calories a day. He always stressed that the meal plan was the bare minimum I should be eating, and I was always encouraged to eat more. For example, if a snack was 1 grain and 1 fat, instead I was in the mood for Ben and Jenny's and ate the pint, that was a reasonable snack. This worked well for me, but I had to leave treatment because I'm moving away for university and losing my health insurance. I promptly relapsed 6 months later, and I'm pulling myself back out of the cycle on my own. I'm sticking to my old meal plan, but I know long term this is not normal. How do I break away from the meal plan? I don't have any fear foods, but I also don't have hunger cues, and I get easily full, and so I can't trust myself to know how much food is enough. I don't want to live my life forever thinking about what I should be eating during every meal in terms of X number of proteins, grains, dairy, fat, vegetables, and fruit. But it's deeply ingrained in me. Do you have any advice? Thanks so much. Yeah. Oh. Well, evidently what you did with your dietitian worked somewhat, so well done. I mean, I don't want to... Hi, Dave. But I hate exchanges. I think it's fucked up. I think it is fucked up to, sit there and be like, so today for breakfast I'm going to have 1 grain and 1 fat and 2 proteins, and it's not how humans eat. It's not how anything eats, actually. It's probably not how Dave eats. Dave, when you are going to have your dinner, Dave, come here. When you're going to have your dinner, do you think about having 1 protein, 1 fat, and 1 grain, or is it maybe 10 protein, 10 fats, and 10 grains? Or do you even know how many grains you get, Dave? Do you get any grains? And what about the fat, Dave? How does this work? Well, I could be wrong, but I don't think she cares. I don't know, don't you think it's fucked up to think of food in that way? So, but I get that you have a little bit of security wrapped up in this because it's worked somewhat. It evidently didn't get you to full recovery, but it's worked somewhat in the past to get you to a point where you're eating relatively unrestrictedly, and you feel happier and healthier. Let's say that's fair, that it's got you that far. So we don't want to completely be like shit all over it, although I just did, but you know what I mean. So I think what we have to do though is we have to teach your brain not to work like that when it comes to food. And the reason that it seemed, you said it feels second nature for you to calculate the grains, the proteins, all that shit when you're thinking about food. Well, that's because you've taught your brain that by doing it. You've been looking at this meal plan forever that says grains, proteins, so you've taught your brain to think that way. And the good news is that you can teach your brain to stop thinking that way. The action has to come first, though. Our brains learn by what we pay attention to and our actions. So if your actions are to continue to base your meals on grains, fats, blah, 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 of course your brain's going to continue to think in that way. So we have to sort of work backwards, and we have to say, what do I want my brain to be like? Oh, I want my brain to not care about any of those things. And so in order to do that, you've got to sort of start acting as if you don't care. Now, you've said to me that you also need to safeguard to make sure that you do continue to eat enough. That's fair enough. But if you've been working with this same meal plan for a long time, you know what's on it. And also, you know when you've made up those meals, so you know how to make up those meals. So it's not fair to say that if the meal plan went away, that you would not know how to eat, because you know what breakfast looks like on that meal plan. And so what you need to do is you need to create a safety net about it. And I go into safety nets in my book, because it's all very well to say eat without restriction, but then if people don't have enough hunger, physical or mental, and they get full really easily, then sometimes that doesn't always work. Sometimes we have to create a safety net. And so a safety net is, and I never tell people to write down a meal plan or even a safety net plan in terms of calories or exchanges or anything like that. I just want you to visualize, like, what does a big breakfast that I know I feel really satisfied, even if I'm eating fully to physical and mental hunger, what does a big breakfast look like? Can you visualize what it looks like? Not sitting there thinking fats, proteins, shit like that. Just like, what does that look like? And so you can sit there and know, well, that breakfast that I was on that meal plan before got my weight up, it got me to a good place. Like, what did that look like? Don't think of the food in terms of the components. Just think, what did that complete meal look like? And that's what you base. You just visualize those meals. And you say to yourself, I'm never going to eat less than that. So you visualize a meal, like sausages, eggs, pancakes, toast, whatever it is. Visualize that meal. And then say if you wake up and you want to go and get, like, I don't know, a breakfast burrito and hash browns, that's fair enough. But just with that visualization of that first meal, you've got to ask yourself, is this at least more than what that first meal would be? And if the answer is, yeah, absolutely. It's like the breakfast burrito and the hash browns and whatever else I want to get as well, that kind of at least adequately covers that first meal. I'm not talking about counting calories. I'm not talking about being accurate. I'm just talking about ballpark. Is this at least what that would have been? And if you're not sure, add a second breakfast burrito. Like, don't make it complicated. It really doesn't have to be accurate, or it just has to be ballpark. Is this more than what I would usually have? Yeah, it is. Therefore, that's fine. But if you're like, I think I'll just have a fruit salad for breakfast this morning. Well, ballpark, that's nowhere near the pancakes and the sausages and whatever else I listed in that first one, is it? So you can be like, yeah, that's probably not enough. I should eat more than that, right? And so that's really how to do it. That's how to teach your brain to look at the whole food rather than look at the whole plate of food rather than dice it up into components. You have to have that safety net, but it can be visualized. It can be this feeling of a meal, and because you've eaten these meals on this meal plan for a long time already. You know what that breakfast feels like. You know what it looks like. You don't need to cut it up into components to know that. Just use that as like, I never eat less than what's on that meal plan, but I'm going to challenge myself to eat differently and go different places and eat different things. But I'm going to know that I never ate less than that. And if there's any doubt that I've eaten more than what's on that meal plan, I'm going to eat more food in that moment to make sure. I hope that makes sense. It's quite difficult to explain these things, because I do think that really we need to get a visual of what food is adequate for us rather than these numbers and this breaking it up into components. But I do go into detail, I think, on this in my book, because it's just how you actually learn to eat for you. That's the difference. And that's something to learn when you're stuck thinking of meal plans and eating. It's like eating by numbers. It's really difficult to sort of learn how to eat for yourself, but you can do it. But in order to do it, you've got to take those brave steps away from that meal plan. Use the meal plan as a safety net. I'm never saying you should eat less than the meal plan. Nope. I'm saying you use it as a safety net and you commit to always eating more. But you have to also be brave enough to eat differently and eat different types of food. And like you said, if you eat, you've given an example where you've already done that, where it says, like, I don't know, for a snack, 1 grain and 1 fat, and you've eaten a tub of ice cream. Brilliant. So I know that you can do it, because that's exactly what I'm talking about. You've kind of gone like, but what I want to happen now is like that middle step to be eliminated, where you sit there and like try and work out, well, is a tub of ice cream, is that like 2 fats, or is that any grains? And if you get a little bit anxious about that, I want that to be eliminated. Hope that makes sense. Okay, bye.